Good afternoon. Travel disruption is expected across Glasgow this weekend as several major roads are closed ahead of the COP26 climate summit. With just a week to go until more than 100 world leaders arrive in the city, protesters have gathered in Aberdeen demanding more action is taken to tackle the climate crisis. Sophie has more.
Rallying to the beat of the drums in Aberdeen city centre today and sharing their views on climate change. COP26 is set to get underway next week in Glasgow, where decisions made there by world leaders are set to have an impact far and wide. Here in the oil and gas capital of Europe, climate change campaigners were keen to have their voices heard.
We're here basically to raise the concerns in the North East and also encourage people to go down to COP26 when it happens. It's extremely important, but what's even more important is that they actually follow up on the actions. So far, only about a fifth of the actions that have been agreed to have actually been fulfilled. So unfortunately, we are moving towards a much more difficult situation in terms of climate change.
I'm feeling gradually there's like a momentum building, so there's more and more people who are hearing about what COP is, and so there's definitely more people getting involved.
It's really, really important to speak out about it, and all the world leaders are going to be gathering in a couple of weeks' time, so it's kind of the perfect chance to say, we care about this.
Back in Glasgow, security is being ramped up ahead of the summit, with major roads closing for the next 3 weeks. This includes the Clydeside Expressway, a route connecting much of the west end of the city.
We will have seen similar levels of disruption, in particular during the 2014 Commonwealth Games. So we're looking at something like that, but it's still going to be very different. We've got the road closures, then overlaid with that we have the movement of the world leaders, and then of course we've also got potential for activism. So we've got a few different layers that all together means we have never seen anything like this before in Glasgow or Scotland.
With widespread disruption expected, NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde have said they're rearranging some face-to-face appointments in a bid to relieve congestion, but insist all urgent care and appointments for cancer patients will continue.
There are some patients who will be able to do telephone or online appointments with the hospital, but there's a lot of patients who can't, and a lot of patients who need to be doing face-to-face appointments, and it's those patients I'm particularly concerned about. It's fantastic COP is coming to Glasgow, but we must not stop people going about their normal lives, and we need to ensure that healthcare workers can actually go to hospital.
Rallies like this are set to become a familiar sight across the country over the coming weeks, with COP26 being described as a pivotal moment in the fight against climate change. Sophie, STV News.
NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde is urging people to avoid going to A&E unless their condition is life-threatening. The Health Board says around a third of patients attending emergency departments have minor injuries and is urging them to contact NHS 24 for support instead. It comes as coronavirus continues to pile pressure on health boards across the country. Care workers fighting to be paid a minimum of £15 an hour took their campaign to Holyrood this afternoon. Carers and industry voices are warning of chronic staff shortages and say a pay rise could help to ease enormous pressures on the sector this winter.
Very bad. There's work being handed back to councils. There's people who are going without care, people who lost care during the pandemic who aren't getting it back. £15 is the average wage in the UK, so it's really hard for somebody to turn around and say that those who care for the most vulnerable in our society aren't worth £15.
This is the starting point. I think if you're going to get people into care, and £15 an hour is the way to drive people in, but there's much more that you could fight for. Like, we need to fight for better terms and conditions, we need to fight for carers' rights, we need to make sure people are getting heard, and if you're going to invite people into the care system, then really £15 an hour is going to drive them in, and that's the bare minimum that we could reach.
All right, finally to football, and there are 5 Scottish Premiership games currently in action. The scores so far are Aberdeen 1, Hibs 0, Hearts 1, Dundee 0, Ross County 1, Livingston 2, Dundee United 1, Motherwell 0, and Celtic 1, St Johnstone 0. And that's all we've got time for this afternoon. We're back tomorrow evening at 10 to 7, so do join us then if you can. Bye for now.